Today, we complete our 3-round 2026 NFL mock draft with rounds 2 and 3. If you guys are new, feel free to go check out round 1. We're going to do a quick little recap here. Below my face is my board. Is players graded in all 22? I have over 290 of these players over on my Patreon, also broken down by every single category that I grade them in. So feel free to go check that out. $5 a month. We have a great community over there, so I love that. And then you guys have some exclusive content over there that is even outside of that, which pertains to rookies as well as every single week for draft prospects that you don't get to have fully on the show. Let's get into this. Starting out with a quick little recap, I'm going to talk about the trades. And we had Miami make a strategic move to move back and still get a quarterback of the future. Baltimore wanted to get extremely aggressive. I didn't really like the value that they could have there sitting at pick number 5. So we ended up moving up and selecting Ruben Bain because of that. Then Tennessee sitting there after seeing Jordan Tyson get sniped in front of them. Rashid Shaheed was also traded, which I actually forgot to do because PFF, I mean, they need to have like a save button, but I had to redo this entire thing. Forgot to put in the pick 133 for Shaheed. Sent him to the Steelers. Ended up getting Jordan Tyson there to be the 2/1. But the Titans are sitting there saying the value is just not good for us. We have 2 more quarterbacks on the board, 2 quarterback needy teams back to back after. And so the Raiders, in desperation, ended up sending a good amount of draft capital in a move up there. Of course, leaving the Dolphins to go Dante Moore. Browns fans were pissed. It's okay. You guys always seem to be a little bit more of the grouchy bunch. Love you guys. Regardless, I don't let my Steelers bias do anything. I try to be the most impartial possible. As a matter of fact, I'd prefer to get the Browns a quarterback. So for those of y'all who are trying to say that I'm trying to rig it, not really the case. It kind of makes you look a little stupid, but that's okay. It's okay. But ended up getting some offensive line instead. Via that trade back with the Raiders, the Titans still ended up selecting Carnell Tate, who honestly wouldn't have been a bad choice at number 6. But we continue on pretty clean slate, and we had a small move up here with the Panthers for Kenyon Sadiq. Tight end's not your number 1 need by any way, shape, or form, but I also believe that the value at linebacker wasn't really something I wanted to exercise at 16. Defensive back was not something I wanted to exercise at 16. And cornerback, I mean, you could have went after Avion Terrell, but I didn't necessarily believe that the cornerback style, based on the, Abney being a little bit less athletic and then Avion Terrell being a little bit more of the smaller type, really ended up fitting what I want to go for you guys. I like a more balanced corner overall, about like 6 foot, fluid, and a little bit more fast. And Avion's sub 6 foot, definitely plays sub 6 foot. He plays aggressive, but I wasn't really in the mood to take him at 16. And I do see tight end being a really good option. You can use Kenyon in the slot. You can use him in line. Really happy with that move up to just jump the Chiefs here. And then, of course, the Vikings, who made that deal, ended up getting the player I wanted for them in the first place. Then the Bears and Chargers did a quick little swap here. CC Mauigoa needed to get him and jump up to select him based on some teams in this range that are looking for high-quality interior offensive line play. And also with the amount of injuries that have happened, definitely a good fallback in case you need someone to play some tackle for you as well. Then, of course, the Bears end up going Christian Miller via that move back. To me, Christian Miller is a top 15 player in the class. If you end up getting extra draft capital and still get the player, I think that's a win. I know some of my Bears fans are a little bit concerned about it, but when you end up having someone as high potential as Christian Miller, it's something that I'd feel very comfortable with. Then we had San Francisco and the Steelers do a little swap here, and the Steelers jump a couple of teams that I think Keith Abney would have been great for to select a strong boundary corner. We do need to have a longer term corner 2/1, especially if Jalen's going to end up moving to a more hybrid position at safety. Definitely going to be something where you need to keep an eye on it. Regardless, big play Slay, not going to be there for the long haul. Keith Abney will be taking over that role for the short, and hopefully, we could see JPJ get back to what we know he could be. Keith Abney end up being a nice 1-2 punch there for the future. But via that trade back, Caden Proctor ends up being the Niners pick, which is just what I telegraph every time. It's like the dream pick for me, the dream fit for the Niners as well. Colton Hood was selected in a trade up for the Colts. I had a couple teams here that, and by the way, Jermod McCoy considered returning in this. There's a couple other players I honestly probably should have, like Lenore Sellers, but for the time being, I'm giving it like one more week to see if we can build up some momentum. But for Jermod McCoy, it's pretty clear that he, as well as Lee, the center, are just going to end, or Lou, excuse me, not Lee, are going to end up returning to school. Lou, ACL tear, true junior, and then Jermont McCoy coming off an ACL tear as a true junior. But the corner two value was just not good after this. So I ended up making a small move up with Denver to end up selecting a top tier corner for a team that definitely needs to go after a corner. We ended up continuing that trade down. By the way, Anthony Hill, the result of that trade down for the Broncos might have been my move for them at number 26. So again, a lot of these trades were made with the idea that the player I wanted would still be there at that selection. So I'm only gaining draft capital while still getting the same product. And then also we had the Cowboys make a trade with the Miami Dolphins. So they ended up trading back, ended up acquiring a lot of extra draft capital to get Dante Moore, ended up trading up to get their true number one receiver in Casey Concepcion based on the amount of teams in this range that I think would have been open to a wide receiver, leaving them pretty barren at that position after Tyreek Hill ends up piecing out. Literally and metaphorically, I guess. But at number 33, we have the New York Jets. We'll see if they end up moving on from Jermaine Johnson. Keldrick Falk could have been an intriguing option. I do think with the fact that he's just fluctuating in weight and role, a lot of teams are probably going to get some DeMarvin Leal vibes. Just going to say it's not the same tier because DeMarvin was like 285 and went up to 300 to move up to D tackle. Keldrick Falk going around 270 back up to 285 to be a weird tweener role, but a very unclear vision for Keldrick Falk at the moment, which is why I feel comfortable with the idea of him being here. A lot of really good choices that are still available. Absolutely. The big question is, are the Jets going to be selling? Like, are they going to be getting rid of players? If the answer is yes, then there's going to be a lot more vacancies that open up for this team to fill. First pick, the Cuban missile, Fernando Mendoza. I do think wide receiver is not a bad move here. However, with the number of receivers that I ended up taking, I just don't really feel like the value is lining up. Chris Brazzell, I feel like is going to be a little bit more of a PFF darling than necessarily actual talent-wise. Jeremy Bernard feels like he's someone who I really, really like, but it does feel a slight bit early. CJ Daniels, love him to death as well. Antonio Williams, good options, but these guys are more so the late second range. And honestly, without a third round pick, I do feel comfortable with an idea of a team that might want to get a high tier edge rusher and just say, stop gaining weight, just be a solid edge. Or can value him as a tweener, would be like a team like the Saints. I also want to look at here with the Titans, who ended up trading back, have 2 picks in this range. And, again, we're not going to get a third round pick out of that type of move up. Obviously, it's a small range, but it's something where the Jets can get a little bit of draft capital. And for the Titans that need an edge rusher, I mean, their first pick was a wide receiver. It's probably a smart idea to go and make a small move up to get someone who is really awesome. But pick number 120 was required to move up from 17 to 15. And that's kind of like my litmus test, my base for a lot of the values of my trades back when the Steelers traded with the Jets. So funnily enough, this is a far lower range. And I think a great opportunity here is for the Titans to kind of recomp their picks and for the Jets to reshift their picks as well. So the Jets are moving back 3 spots to move up about 32. You might say it might be a little bit of a ripoff, but to move up 3 spots in the second round, I think this is actually pretty damn solid value, and both teams keep the quantity of picks as well. The Titans have moved up. Carnell Tate, their first selection. Keldrick Falk, getting a quality high floor edge rusher at number 33 is good value for me. Again, Carnell Tate and Keldrick Falk with extra draft capital and still an early second round pick. That seems like be a good deal for me. At number 34 for the Dallas Cowboys, Keldrick Falk would have probably been an option I'd go after if I did not draft Clev Lubin. You guys might say, what the hell? How is Clev a top 15 player? I mean, something doesn't add up, and I think it's PFF just being a little bit behind on their board. I mean, he is statistically one of the best edge rushers in the entire country. But on top of that, if you use your eyes, I ended up grading his worst game as well versus Miami. Like, he is a top 15 player in the class. He has been productive. He has good size at 250. He's extremely strong, very smart. To me, I don't like to, like you guys see, I love Malachi Lawrence. Huge fan of Malachi Lawrence. I don't think that people will see Malachi Lawrence through the lens that I do, but Clev has gone up in the brightest stages, in like the biggest lights versus Miami. I'm going to see him in person as well, so we'll see if he passes the eye test and is produced. So haven't seen that from Malachi this year, We'll see if that happens. But again, I'm going to end up putting someone who I thoroughly believe people will believe as a top 15 pick up in that range. Malachi Lawrence is going to be much more of a my guy. So I'm not going to necessarily put him overly high to waste all of our time by just making a mock draft extremely unrealistic. But at number 34, though, Dallas Cowboys ended up going with Clev in the first round. I love the idea of just going after defense here with Caden McDonald. You could talk about Anthony Hill if he were here. I do think the linebacker room could use some extra firepower in there. And, Overshown, Anthony Hill, similar background there at Texas. And so my big thing, you need to just get run support. And Caden McDonald and Clev Lubin actually would provide a really, really good 1-2 punch. And then Caden's pretty young, if I'm not mistaken, as well. I think he's like 20 or 21. So it's going to be a really nice addition with a guy who's he's going up. He's accelerating his development while also being somebody who has a great floor. Someone who I think could easily go in the first round if ends up being that way. I'm not going to be overly surprised. At 35 for the Saints, they sticked and picked and got Jordan Tyson. I do need to make a quick trade here with the Steelers and end up sending Rashid Shaheed, which was already done in yesterday's video. Again, PFF, please end up keeping a save function or don't have your thing refresh every damn time. Your boy tries his best, but sometimes it gets a little bit crazy. So an actual updated look at our picks, we ended up acquiring an extra selection, did get our wide receiver of the future in Jordan Tyson. I feel very comfortable, right now with the value that we have gotten. Quarterback, some people will still want it. If you're sitting at 3, you could, of course, entertain the idea, but I do believe that this team has a lot more issues to fix. And I do like the idea of being able to go after a high quality pass rusher at this point. I know that your defense has switched to more of a 3-4, which is just weird. But I also know Mickey Loomis loves measurables. So I'm looking at someone like Joshua Josephs here who can end up playing as that outside linebacker role, has experience in coverage, and has 34 3/4-inch arms. I think it's a great fit. However, I don't know if I want to take him here at 35. If he tests out as well as he should, it's very possible he could go in this range. But there's a lot of other players in here like LT Overton, Cassius Howe that are not going to necessarily fit the exact measurement profile. Well, especially Cassius Howe, going to be someone who has very, very short arms. But I'm looking at a team maybe that would want to move up. You see LT Overton here. I do think teams should be at least intrigued with the idea. Is there one that needs an edge setter? The Bengals, but they don't move. They just don't. They don't make those kind of moves. The Cowboys could get ballsy here. I don't think with the draft capital they have, it's a smart idea. We could see that the Chiefs get aggressive as well. LT Overton is a dream option for them, and they don't have too many holes. And for the Saints being able to move back to that range, I'm pretty sure we're still going to get Joshua Josephs or someone who's very similar. So especially with the amount of picks we have, we need more. So I'm going to be taking a look, and we're going to make a pretty large trade here with Kansas City. This is going to require pick number 118, which ends up really bolstering our day 3 capital very well. And I think it'll take a future 4. Feel free to negotiate this trade on your own. It's not going to really affect too much. But the Chiefs are going to make the move up here. They took Jeremiah Love in the first round. And I feel very happy with LT Overton being here. He's a great Spags edge rusher. You talk about 280. This is someone who also can kick inside. So honestly, kind of like the opposite of Chris Jones. But you saw last year with Ashton Gillette, who also has some really good athletic traits, good size to him. LT is somebody that is going to be very similar and provides that pass rushing upside. But this year, he's been used more as a decoy than anything. But a high floor run defender who has that pass rushing ability. Quincy Rhodes could be the option there as well. But I think the value is too good for LT Overton. At number 36 for the New York Jets, again, via that small trade back, I do feel like the best position to target is looking at wide receiver at this point. Like I was saying, it's a little bit early to take the wide receivers at 33. You get some extra capital. The medicine goes down a little easier. And so CJ Daniels, I love to death. Antonio Williams is coming back, and he's doing a pretty damn solid job. Jeremy Bernard's just the dream option. Unfortunately, Malachi Corley did not work out. Jeremy Bernard is essentially like a Malachi Corley type after the catch. He's just built much lighter, but plays so well and so physically after the catch. It's just a dream wide receiver 2/3. And I'm going to lean more towards wide receiver 3, which you say, hey, that's a second round pick. But this is somebody where you're just going to be so happy to have him on the field as often as you can because he's good in the short range. He's been reliable over the middle. And I mean, he's honestly been not too shabby in terms of like just being somebody through contested catches. Not talking about these contested catches. I'm talking about catching traffic. This is somebody I think could end up being a really good asset there. At 37 for the Miami Dolphins, we have Dante Moore and Casey Concepcion. We did that trade back, basically flipping some picks in order to get pick number 37 as well. We have really fixed up the offense here. Part of me still wants to go offensive line. You look at Caleb Lamu here, Tiernan, World. Like the value is impeccable, but we do need to fix the defense as well. You can't neglect it that much. Again, Jermod McCoy considered returning in this. I would honestly be looking at Malik Muhammad, Davison Igbinosun. You can talk about AJ Harris, Chris Johnson. Those are the 3, and then AJ Harris is the flex 4 that I'd be considering on the defensive side. Like you could go and say, we're going to go best player available, go after Lamu and, just kind of forget about it and end up going probably primarily defense for the rest of the entire draft. It's not a horrible idea, but I would say, honestly, you need to go after after corner. And I ended up reevaluating Davison Igbinosun very recently. And yeah, he's grabby. He is. But his grabbiness has decreased noticeably. Does that like make him a non-grabby corner? No. But this is somebody who's 6'2", 195, 5-star, great athlete, but he's someone who can absolutely lock down one side of the field. When he is on, not many players can do anything against him. And remember, this player has been practicing against high-tier NFL wide receiver 1/2s his entire career. Jeremiah Smith, Carnell Tate, Emeka Egbuka, the list goes on. So I'll just throw that out there. This is somebody who's going to come into the NFL day one being pretty experienced against these guys, and I'm going to end up going after it. We'll go Davison Igbinosun there for the Dolphins. So we got Igbinosun, Concepcion, and Dante Moore. 3 pretty big pieces for massive upgrades at each position, respectively. At 38 for the Cleveland Browns, Spencer Fano, Chris Bell, the first picks. If I'm just going to be completely real, I'm not against going after Caleb Lamu at this point and just pairing the guys back up and putting Lamu at guard and end up keeping Fano at tackle or just seeing whichever one works. Because I know you guys need it. Of course, what about quarterback, bro? You know how many fucking quarterbacks are in this class, man? I'm just going to be so honest with y'all. Like, John Mateer could return. Like, if we start seeing the guys return, right? Mateer, let's just say, I'm returning to school. Levitt, returning to school. I think Sorsby has another year as well. Yeah, so Sorsby could say, hey, I'm returning. I don't think he will, but will be an interesting option. Klubnik, does he have everybody has the ability to redshirt, but Klubnik, definitely an option. Like these guys, I personally believe Drew Aller should medically return to school. There's so many options in this class, but the guy who does bring the distribution ability with a high upside with his arm is Jaden Maiava. And we have Chris Bell here, who I think he would love after the catch. And that's probably the route I'm going to go. Again, I'm not a huge fan of the idea. John Mateer definitely doesn't really fit a Stefanski like system. He's not necessarily the most he's not the most mechanically calm, not the best processor in the world. Garrett Nussmeier used to be, not really anymore. Levitt, definitely not the case. Maiava, he's dangerous, but he has some throws that are just like, that is high tier NFL. So I think it's worth like being able to go and select this guy. Now, my only concern is, again, that offensive line. We could end up trying to address quarterback on day 2 or like later day 2 again. I don't think that'd be a bad idea, but with Jaden Maiava here, I do think out of the quarterbacks available, he is the one that has shown progression. So Levitt, in my opinion, hasn't shown enough progression. Garrett Nussmeier, regression. To me, it was progression early, but ended up being regression overall. Mateer, regression post-injury. Cade Klubnik, regression. Drew Aller, regression. Carson Beck, not much to regress, but still recently regression. We're just talking about a lot of quarterbacks. Even Ethan Kaliak-Manis is a fun one, but still has had some regression in there over the year. There's just a lot of bad options at this point, and Jaden Maiava brings the only type of profile outside of Sorsby that has shown progression this year. I'll go after Mayava here. At 39 for the Tennessee Titans, we've gone Carnell Tate and Keldrick Falk. I think those are the two key positions to address. I'm very happy with it. Again, Connor Liu not coming out in this one for those of y'all who are wondering. I do think, man, Lamu's here too. Like, what did I do? Honestly, I might do one more trade right now. To be fair, I do think the Texans need to get aggressive soon. Like offensive line, well, they should be fine. But offensive line will definitely start flying off the board very soon. And for the Titans, I'm looking at corner primarily for them. Like, let's just be real. It's supposed to be Brownlee being the king of the castle, and he's not really done so. Malik Muhammad's going to be my next target, and Chris Johnson as well, but Chris Johnson a little bit more of the off coverage zone specific. I like Malik Muhammad in terms of the translatability to your system a bit better. So I'm going to end up going with him, but I want to get some value here. And I think the Cardinals absolutely would love Caleb Lamu at this point. They went Arvell Reese early, super short range trade. I do think this is actually a really good opportunity to get maybe pick 148 and swap it with 182. So, I mean, you could end up saying like that's a little bit ridiculous. I'm trying to find like a good value for it, which there's not really one. So you got to bite the bullet at some point. So we're going to end up making this trade through because for the Cardinals, you're getting a player who I have as a guard would end up being a top 13 selection. But as a tackle, he would still be a top 40. So I'm really happy with that. Caleb Tiernan, you could talk about him. Isaiah World, he needs a lot of development. But Caleb Lamu, talent-wise, is just too good to pass on. So if you walk out of the first two rounds with Arvell Reese and Caleb Lamu, I think you're going to be very, very happy. And you just jumped a team that I think would really like Caleb Lamu here in the New York Giants, who drafted Caleb Downs in the first round. I do think wide receiver is an underrated target for you guys to get someone who provides like extra value. Like CJ Daniels would be great. Antonio Williams, I think, is a good selection. Nick Harbor is the one that provides the extreme deep threat capabilities. But my only problem with Nick Harbor in this system is that I don't really look at Jackson Dart as necessarily the deep passer that would be required for Nick Harbor to maximize his actual potential. Like, that's where my head is at. I would prefer to go after someone who's going to be a little bit more of a distributor. Antonio Williams feels very similar to what you'd be expecting for Jackson Dart to use when he was at Ole Miss. CJ Daniels, very similarly. But Antonio Williams is the guy that I really love. We still could go after offensive line at this point. Isaiah World would be a great choice because I think back in 2022, he had, I think he might have been a right tackle at Nevada. Might have been in high school, but he has experience at right tackle there, and he needs to spend some time on the interior of the offensive line. I'm going to throw that out there, but I actually will end up opting to go after wide receiver here. And I'm going to end up saying Antonio Williams over the season will end up continuing to reprove himself as a top tier option. We're going to go after Antonio Williams there at number 40. At number 41 for the Titans, again, I telegraphed it. We're going to go corner here with Malik Muhammad. The first two picks being Carnell Tate as well as Keldrick Falk. But Malik Muhammad has gotten better and better. He's someone who is just continuing to improve, and even post-injury coming back and being a really reliable defensive player and a huge reason why Texas won is a big factor to me. At 42 for the Houston Texans, offensive line, got to load up. And, you know, Caleb Tiernan's a good option. Isaiah World's a great option, in my opinion, because he has that experience on both sides. Also, I think he should be playing some guard as well. So I actually really like what he can bring to the squad, and I'm going to take him there at number 42. At 43 for the Cincinnati Bengals, Mansour Delane was the first selection. Edge rusher-wise, honestly, Quincy Rhodes would be an intriguing choice here. He's going to have good arm length. He's going to test out very well at 6'6", 275. He feels very much like what the ownership looks for in edge rushers, and there's not too many of them. Mateo Uyunglele could be similar, but I do think he looks a little skinny. Quincy Rhodes actually is a great choice here. We're going to focus on the offensive line at 75, but there's a lot of players in this class that you could end up doing that. This just ends up lining up a little bit too well, in my opinion. We're going to go after Quincy Rhodes there. For the Texans at number 44, again, Peter Woods, Isaiah World is a crazy combination. If you told someone that 2 months ago, they're going to be like, wow, like a tackle one and that. But, I mean, if we did not have Peter Woods, I would end up instantly smashing the Amari Washington button. I do know that you guys like to trade a lot. And to be honest, looking at the players that are available, you look at a lot of a lot of a lot of quarterbacks. You look at a lot of really quality defensive linemen, but you also see someone who is, it's a very rare cornerback that's actually still very solid on the board in Chris Johnson. And part of me thinks that Howie could end up being extremely aggressive here. The issue is it's a pretty large range to make a move. They've done it before. I mean, that's how you guys ended up with Cooper DeJean. So, I mean, let's end up like looking at that. Let's theorize how that would end up going. Where's Philadelphia? Number 60. You do have pick 65. Honestly, you could end up recomping these picks by going 60, 65 for 44, 72, and then tossing in maybe 128. Like, that'd actually be a pretty solid move there, in my opinion. And to be fair, I don't think 60 or 65 will benefit y'all based on the cornerback, tight end, edge rusher quality that's available. I think for a 16 spot move up, you end up moving back 7 spots. That needs more. That needs more. I'm going to end up tossing in, is it 92 or 99? I'll toss in 99. We'll give the Texans an extra pick in this draft. If you want to toss in something extra, you know, like a 6th rounder here, I know that you have some extra value there. Feel free to. I'm not going to. But this way, the Eagles end up really recomping their picks. The Texans end up adding some extra draft capital. And again, for what I'm looking for the Texans, I don't feel very comfortable with the value here. I'd much rather redistribute and end up having a few more shots on guys to develop rather than, you know, just concentrating a little bit at pick 44. But regardless, we are going to end up our first pick, Trevor Gooseby, to be the long-term option. I end up hearing about some Cam Williams from Texas. Don't have faith in him. And also, he was looked at as potential guard option. I'd love to see him exercise that route. And then Hinton was more of a character guy. In my opinion, I did not see him earn the right there in a preseason to be someone looked as the long-term option for Lane Johnson. I think Gooseby has shown enough potential there. But regardless, we need a corner too. Jermod McCoy not considered coming out in this one. I've said it at the beginning of the video, so if you guys missed that, I'm going to put it there. But Chris Johnson's perfect for this team. I mean, he's high quality zone coverage ability, 6'1", 195, heavy corner. Like, that's just what you want. And I do think a team like Dallas could be intrigued with an option like that. So, I mean, there's a couple of teams in this range that would be open to a corner of that skill set. We're going to go after Chris Johnson there at 44. Again, ended up reallocated our picks, you know, pretty much lost pick 99, but ended up still keeping a really solid foundation of draft capital for both teams. I think it ended up working out for both. At 45 for the Dallas Cowboys, first pick, Cleve Lubin. At number 34, Caden McDonald. I honestly might just go all defense at this point. With CJ Allen on the board, Whit Weeks, I think the value's a little bit too good. And CJ Allen's looked at as like a heavy thumper. And my goal is fix the run game. Like, stop the run, then end up trying to focus on the pass. We're going to go after CJ Allen here, linebacker out of Georgia, and just end up making an absolute headache out of playing the Dallas Cowboys in their front seven. Number 46, Minnesota Vikings traded back, got some good draft capital there, ended up flipping their 4th round pick for a 3rd round pick in that trade back, and ended up, you know, I really like the fact that we have all these, you know, opportunities to take some shots at stuff like center. Right tackle is underrated because I think O'Neal has 1 more year left on his deal. And honestly, Caleb Tiernan's not a bad choice. At this point, it's not a bad choice. He has undersized arms, but he is somebody value-wise that you absolutely could use either as a guard in the short run. I mean, you don't want a 6'8" center. That's not going to be very valuable. But I love the idea. He's going to be someone that probably he'll need a year to cross-train. It's not going to be super fun. People are not going to like this pick, but I want to take a shot on something and hear what you guys have to say. We're going to go Caleb Tiernan, a tackle out of Northwestern, my number 3 player in the class. If you guys hear somebody's dying, apparently, there's a poor fire engine and the ambulance going by, but prayers up to them. Number 47, the Saints, via their massive trade back, they got Jordan Tyson. I feel happy that I did that because, I mean, I'm talking about it. Like, how many edges went? We went 1, 2, because LT Overton. So 2 edges went. Now, I know that you guys run some 4-3, or excuse me, 3-4. I also know that Mickey Loomis has his balls or has the balls of the organization pretty much in his hands, so he gets to do whatever the hell he wants. I'm going to go after somebody who has the athleticism to work in a 3-4, the measurables to work with Mickey Loomis, and the overall skill set to be both effective as a run defender and as a pass rusher. I'm going to look at Zion Young here. He's not like the craziest athlete. Do not get me wrong. He's not going to be like an ultra RAS guy, but you're talking about someone who is in that 260 range at 6'5". He looks pretty damn solid as an athlete, so I don't really worry about it. But he also has taken some reps, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, right there, B gap and over the tackle, which is perfect if you want to kick him inside for certain pass downs. So he has the experience there. I think it's a good move. Deny Dennis Sutton could be an intriguing choice there, another really solid athlete, but Zion Young going to be the selection. At 48 for the Carolina Panthers, went Kenyon Sadiq there in the first. Ended up recomping our picks. We got pick number 114 back while trading 80 to move up. Ended up keeping the picks consistent. I might be looking to move out here, but I also am open to going after defensive back here like Dylan Thieneman. With so many good defensive backs, it is hard to go after a lower value position with guys that, I love Dylan Thieneman. He's not going to be a great athlete, probably not going to be taken until the late second, early third. Keon Saab, we're talking about that in competition. Zaki Wheatley, love him to death. Like, I feel very comfortable with the idea of moving back. Still a reason for maybe a team to move up that wants him, but Amari Washington is absolutely somebody who I think teams would be probably pretty eager to go after. Mateo Uiagalelei, deny Dennis Sutton, especially with the Bears sitting here at 50. They're in need of an edge rusher. You do have some teams that are probably going to be looking to be aggressive. One of them is the Chargers, but we've already been aggressive with them once. I'm not in the mood to just eviscerate all the Chargers draft capital, but I do know the Bills could be pretty aggressive. They went Sonny Styles early. I think going after a high quality edge rusher is crucial for them for the long haul. And I see Mateo Uiagalelei here. You see deny Dennis Sutton. The question is, which one do you like the most? I am a little bit worried about, the 2.7% run stop rate. I don't think he's that bad versus the run, but he does look a little twiggy, a little sticky. I think I have him above deny, but they're just completely different styles of edge rusher. There's so many good edge rushers in this class, but I do think that there's two of them that are kind of like prime candidates for both these options. Also, by the way, I ended up thinking about Joshua Josephs via that trade back for New Orleans. Ended up just loving Zion Young more. I didn't really expect him to be there. So I'm going to make this move with the Bills because I think for the Panthers, it's, again, free draft capital. And for the Bills, it's another great way to, just be able to work with the draft capital that you have. Number 121 would definitely be about the value, but I think that we can end up squeezing out maybe 192 in return. I was hoping maybe we could end up flipping these picks, but I don't think Buffalo has the right amount of draft capital for that. But the Panthers end up having a really stacked early day 3. Maybe we can make some moves with them. The Bills end up drafting Sonny Styles early. Honestly, I could have ended up going after defensive back with Dylan Thieneman here. Honestly, because the Bears would be looking at defensive back. The Panthers already are looking at defensive back, but I'm like really open to all the options with them. Not a bad option. We're gonna go with Dylan Thieneman. I ended up talking about saying he's a late second, but for the Panthers, I'm not fully sold on safety in the first place. I needed to get draft capital, and I'm happy with that move. Falcons at 49 ended up not having a pick so far because they ended up trading for JPJ. Wide receiver 2 is a pretty big issue. And I'm going to go CJ Daniels here. He's a top 40 player for me. He's been so damn rock solid for the Miami Hurricanes. And just really, really good. He's making top 10 receptions all the time. I'm just going to go after the high quality player right there and let him kind of cook with Michael Penix. At 50 for the Bears, first pick, Christian Miller. This selection right here, I want to go after someone who's going to be a little bit more run defense savvy, which Deny isn't really, but he does have the frame and the build to make it happen. And I just think that you need to start taking shots at edge, and Deny Dennis Sutton at 50 is good value. So we're going to go after him there. At 51 for the Jacksonville Jaguars, first pick was for Travis Hunter. So this is going to be their first selection of this draft. I mean, honestly, we'll see what the future entails at corner because Travis is playing like 17 reps there. But I'd be open if you want to go somebody in this range at the values right. To be fair, AJ Harris is the only one considered valuable enough at this spot, and I'm not ready to go after that route. Running back, I mean, I know the running back position is actually pretty valuable in this offense. I know that they've just been extremely efficient no matter where the head coach has been. He's been extremely efficient with his running game. But left tackle is something that's not listed here. Walker Little to me is kind of ass. And I'd be open to, I mean, I'm just going to go after Caden Green here because he's been really, really good this year. Came back from injury versus Bama. That's pretty tough to go up against. And even on the year, he still only has 4 pressures allowed, the one sack being in the first game, too. I'm going to go after Caden Green here and have him be the long-term left tackle. Again, just Walker Little being just annihilated doesn't feel very good to me. At number 52 for the Los Angeles Chargers, first pick, CC Maui-Goa. Here at 52, we're going to go after an edge rusher because we just need to go after more edge talent. I'm looking at Mateo Uyunglele. He's a little skinny. For some reason, he looks really skinny at 270. I'm going to trust that his development is going to continue improving. We're going to go after him there at 52. So at 53, we traded back and got an extra 4th round pick. Again, another person is dying in case you are hearing that. But, I'm like looking at the options here that would be best for us. And Thieneman, honestly, I don't think would be. I do think linebacker is not a bad choice at this point. You look at Whit Weeks. I mean, did we end up trading? We didn't trade out of a linebacker. If CJ Allen were there, I'd be kind of pissed. I'd be pissed if I were one of you guys. But I do think that a boundary corner like AJ Harris honestly wouldn't be a bad choice at this point. I'm not super high on him, but a lot of people really, really like him. And you guys do need to look at a top tier corner too. And a lot of people have him as like a 1st round pick. So I'm going to blend my board with realism and say that he'll go here in the mid-second. You trade back, you get your value. Safeties are going to be available there in the 3rd round where we can end up utilizing those picks for a trade up. 54 for the Niners, traded back with the Steelers, got Caden Proctor. Perfect fit in my opinion. I do think we need to go after someone who's a little bit more pass rush savvy. And, looking at the options that would end up helping you guys out, I mean, you have some great choices here. I'm personally going to go after someone that could probably be a longer term, similar to Josh Sweat role, and that's going to be Cassius Howell, edge rusher at Texas A&M. He is fantastic, just has under 31-inch arms. You're going to have to bet on him being the exception to the rule. But at 54, that's where I feel comfortable. And again, we're just getting really, really good contributors for this team. At 55 for the Seahawks, Denzel Boston was the first pick. Boundary corner, just not plentiful enough right now. And I'm going to address the interior of the offensive line. So the question is Jennings Dunker. Austin actually is going to be a pretty damn good guard. I highly doubt he comes out. But I think with the situation that we're looking at right now, this would be a really good choice. So Austin ended up playing left guard and right guard last year. He's playing a solid job at tackle, but to me, his arms look about like 32 inches. So it is going to be projected more as a guard in the first place. Good movement skills. A lot of people really, really like him more than I do. But again, at guard, I actually trust him a lot. And I think this could be very similar to how we saw Gray Zabel, but I like Gray Zabel a lot more. At number 56 for the Detroit Lions, took Vega Ione in the 1st round. Someone brought up about the long-term left tackle situation, and this is just not the class for it. I'll just put that out there. There's just, it's not. But yeah, I mean, maybe definitely you should be looking for your guy long-term there. 1st round pick, though. We end up getting a high-quality interior offensive line, so we fixed more of the core of the issue. Corner, if it were available, would be a selection. I'm going to look at edge rusher here, though, and honestly, I love how much Gabe Akis, like he dropped 5 pounds. He dropped 15 pounds of fat. I mean, this dude is lean and mean. It's crazy. It's so good to see that, by the way, because I really love his game. 270, definitely someone who could flex to the interior as well. Just a high-quality pass rusher. The Steelers, 1st round, traded up for Keith Abney. We have a billion picks, so you just got to do what you got to do. Wide receiver, you could try to talk me into one right now. You talk about Nick Harbor here, and then, of course, having DK Metcalf as the mentor. I actually like the idea of that. The question is who's throwing him the ball, and we do have the ability to go after someone like John Mateer, Garrett Nussmeier at this point. Again, huge question marks for all of these quarterbacks. Huge. How often do you see quarterbacks taken in round 2? Not too often. But I do think with John Mateer, it's a first round talent that's falling because of injury red flags. And that usually ends up going here in the second. We're going to go after John Mateer, quarterback out of Oklahoma. So Abney and Mateer are the first two selections. At 58 for the Denver Broncos, first pick, Anthony Hill via trade back. Here at pick 58, we're going Jennings Dunker to play center for us. Right tackle out of Iowa, projected to the interior of the offensive line. Wrestling champion type of guy. Perfect to replace Luke Wattenberg. At number 59 for the Los Angeles Rams, took Mekhi Lemon and Lenore Sellers. Part of me just like, you have like the devil on one shoulder and then like the angel on the other. The devil's like, go Nick Harbor. And just end up like completely revamping the wide receiver room. I'm not going to do that. It'd be kind of cool, but we're also here not to waste each other's time. So I want to give you guys at least a reflective, an idea of what I think would be good for this team. Looking at the defensive backs, man, Jesus, like this class really does suck at corner. And again, I'm projecting Jermod McCoy to return if you guys missed that part of the episode. But we have two guys who are probably going to be in the nickel here, and D'Angelo Pons as well as Chandler Rivers. Dalen Everett has not earned the right to be a second round pick. We're going to go back to the offensive. Oh my God. This is such a bad spot. This is why we do trades. So we're going to end up moving out of here. Amari Washington's available. And I do think a team that's looking to upgrade their defensive interior could try to make that happen. Oh, honestly, I already did Peter Woods for the Texans, but I'm looking at other teams that could try to upgrade their defensive interior. Not a bad idea for the Colts to just double trade up, but the Saints have ended up moving back. So they have draft capital to move back up, and they need some defensive line help. We ended up already getting them some with Zion Young. I actually think Amari Washington would be a crazy addition. I don't think there's that many issues, in my opinion, that the Saints need to like drastically fix. I think that they're just kind of they're right below the threshold of competition. And with a high-end wide receiver like Jordan Tyson, with a high-tier edge rusher like why am I forgetting Zion Young's name? I think they're actually in a pretty damn good spot. So we're actually going to look at this. We're going to see if we could move up with the Saints. We have a good amount of draft capital here. I do think if we can end up recomping or actually providing future draft capital, because we have Kansas City's future 4, this could actually end up working out very well for us. So we got Pittsburgh's pick from Rashid Shaheed here. Like, again, we're making a 7 or an 8 spot move. Providing a future 4 feels already pretty expensive. I'm going to go 138, and we're going to give back 113. We could do 188. I think 188 is a little bit more apt. So, we'll go 142 and go 188. Again, it's a pretty big move. Feel free. We can end up tossing in the 5 in here instead. Do the pick that you perceive as more valuable. But the Rams end up getting future draft capital as well as short-term they moved it around. Reallocation. Jesus, I've used that word like 1,000 times, so my mind is going numb. But Jordan Tyson, Zion Young, and then Amari Washington are 3 huge playmakers. Like, you might see like, oh, the consistency is not there. It's not. But Amari has the most jaw-dropping reps that you'll see. This guy blows up offensive linemen this past week. Not this past week. I think it was versus Indiana. He ended up literally bench pressing and just bull rushing a guard onto his ass. And then he's also pushed one into the quarterback. So the high level play is there. I think it's worth taking the swing on. At number 60 for the Houston Texans, first pick, Peter Woods, second pick, Isaiah World. Honestly, you're not out of the realm of going after offensive line if you so please. There are still some interior options that I think are on the board and it's definitely open, like Parker Brailsford on the interior, someone who I love. PFF just does not love centers, in my opinion. Emmanuel Pragnon's a great choice, and if you pair him up with Isaiah World, they already are a 1-2 punch. I definitely think that's certainly an option, and I have him worth a second-round grade right now. So I'm going to throw the curveball there. We're going to pair up the Oregon offensive lineman there with Emmanuel Pregnon and Isaiah World. We're just building through the trenches because there's not many other positions you really need to target. We need to get some corner depth, some linebacker depth. I know depth is a big issue, but we need to get some impact starters here in the 60s as well. 61 for the New England Patriots. First pick, David Bailey. Second selection. Could end up trying to upgrade the offensive line. I think linebacker is worth it at this point. I love Whit Weeks. I think that maybe a little bit early for him. He's having a bit of a down year. We'll see. He's a true junior. Could end up going back to school. It's a great linebacker class. Honestly, Kyle Lewis is a savage. He was a first team all ACC last year. He's not going to be the most forceful player on planet Earth, but he is just so damn good in open space. Like, he's one of the best and smartest linebackers in the country. We're going to go after Kyle Lewis. At 62, we have the Green Bay Packers. First pick, Micah Parsons, essentially. Selection here at 62. I'm honestly looking at Caleb Banks. I mean, defensive interior, you can end up always upgrading with best player available. It rarely ends up failing. Just the health wise, it's just a big concern. But he's already a redshirt senior. He'll be coming out. And very similar, I'm not going to say it's like Will Johnson level of talent, but Caleb Banks is over 35-inch arms. We could talk about him physically gifted on that same level. I think this is a good range for him to go. So I feel very comfortable just going best player available, going Caleb Banks there for the Packers. At 63 for the Buccaneers went R. Mason Thomas in round 1. And I mean, with Romello height here, it feels a little silly. Joshua Josephs as well. Did not expect them to be here. And that's not something that you want to just roll the dice on. But this is a team that could be looking on the interior of the offensive line. It's another team I would be open to going after linebacker, and that's why I'm going to look at Whit Weeks right now. I think he could end up playing and getting a little bit extra size to be more of a Mike, but with the teams needing a linebacker in this range, I don't think you can run the risk of trying to move out and seeing how that ends up playing out for you. At 64 for the Indianapolis Colts, first pick was a trade up for Colton Hood. Here at 64, I do think edge rusher is probably the next position you need to target. And I mean, if you're going to fit a Lou Amorino defense, you probably need to have a little bit of size to you. So that's just like the one concern I do have. Shout out to Nigel Lee Kelly. He's actually been doing a great job this year. Like, you guys know me, I love Malachi Lawrence, but Nigel Lee's been baller. So I can't even use him as a placeholder, but I'm debating going Malachi Lawrence here. He's about 6'5", 263 with 35-inch arms. And I mean, when he was down in the 250 range, which he's listed 250, but again, I have numbers from scouts, 263. When he was 250, he had unbelievable fluidity. He also, Kelly's up there, but Malachi Lawrence has a higher true pass rush win rate, which is top 10 in the entire country. So I'm going to go with that for the Indianapolis Colts. We're going to give you a my guy. I'm going to have Quay Russaw be the placeholder, but number 5 player, Malachi Lawrence, going at number 64. 65 for the Houston Texans. First pick, Peter Woods. Then Isaiah World, Emmanuel Pregnon, fixing the offensive line. I know you guys need to fix some depth there. In the secondary, I absolutely think that we can end up trying to go after some defensive back help. My problem is the player I like the most is D'Angelo Pons, and that kind of is Jalen Smithy. He's undersized, so I'm a little bit worried about that. So I don't think that the value is necessarily here. And again, Jermod McCoy considered returning. We could go Dalen Everett because he is like a solid cornerback 5, in my opinion. It's not bad, but it's just like at the top of the third, there's better value. So we're going to end up going. And you can talk about running back value as well with Jonah Coleman. He's cooled off a little bit. His missed tackle percentage is, in my opinion, not very good. Jonah Coleman wouldn't be a bad choice here. The question is, do you want to roll the dice on a running back there and then a linebacker later on? Honestly, that might be a good idea because Jacob Rodriguez is the guy I'm looking at. It's between the two. I think at 65, you got to roll the dice on the running back because Jonah is somebody who should be worth a true second, and you're getting him here at 65, and he's a good pairing for Woody Marks. We'll go after it. At number 66 for the Miami Dolphins, when Dante Moore, Casey Concepcion, Davison Igbinosun, I know it's going to ruffle some feathers, but I love you guys anyway. Offensive line-wise, I am actually looking at like Parker Brailsford to move him potentially to guard. He's definitely not necessarily the dream option there. But I actually am going to go for another center. And I'm going to go after my number 18 player in the class, Lyndon Cooper. And he is, again, not listed on this list, but we're going to have Bryce Foster be the placeholder. Lyndon Cooper, center out of Pittsburgh, he got up to 315 pounds. So I'm going to end up moving him over to guard and just fixing the guard spot for the long haul. Jonas Avenilla needs to end up being put on the bench and developing. Unfortunately, he just has not been able to survive the bright lights. At 67 for the Los Angeles Rams, first picks, McKylam and Lenore Sellers, we ended up trading back with the Saints. And, cornerback-wise, again, I would love to get some options here, but I just don't think the value's right. Offensive line-wise, again, also not a fan of the talent that is available. Like, Drew Shelton would be more of an interior offensive lineman. Hold up. Emil Wagner probably will go back to school. Like, there's a strong chance. But if he does end off the season red hot, this is the class for him to come out and be like a surprise mid-day 2 pick. I think he's a really high ceiling player. Like, I don't know why people try to shit on him that much. The dude ended up gaining like 10 pounds over the offseason. Still looks really, really solid. Just ended up having a rough week 1 and 2 versus some of the best pass rushers. I mean, look at this. Look at what he's faced. Akeem Mesidor and Ruben Bain off the bat. Then you also end up looking at Texas A&M, where they have somebody that we just ended up drafting. So it's like we're talking about, first 2-round quality players here, Cassius Howell, and then, of course, Ruben Bain. And then another player we just drafted, right? I mean, you talk about like the fact that he's faced a ton of high-quality edge rushers. Even USC was Anthony Lucas. So he's had a really tough time. And so he still ended up only allowing 6 total pressures, 1 sack in that group. I'm going to show some love here and get a developmental right tackle for the Rams. At number 68 for the Las Vegas Raiders, Ty Simpson was the first pick. Again, it ruffled a lot of feathers. People got really mad, but we're going to rush this one to the podium. Some really good defensive back value here. We're going to go Zaki Wheatley, defensive back out of Penn State. So Ty Simpson, Zaki Wheatley. Seems just very simple, very easy. Baltimore Ravens are sitting here. They have 2 picks. They went Ruben Bain via a trade up. And I feel very happy with that. Needed to end up getting something to work in that core. I'm going to go after Big Dom Orange here as well. I personally don't think that the Ravens have a quality defensive line, and that's crucial for them to succeed in the NFL. So we're going to go after best player available, and the value is right with Dom Orange. At 70, the Browns have gone Jaden Mayava, Chris Bell, Spencer Fano. Need to look potentially at the defensive side as well. We'll end up looking at it, but with the defensive interior, I think you guys are doing a pretty good job. Aiden Huntington has been pretty reliable. I think the guy that you'd probably want to go after is more a developmental edge to be able to grow for a year underneath McGuire as well as Wright. And there's just not really that option here besides Anthony Lucas. And Anthony's still, I think the numbers are pretty deceiving. So I actually might just continue going and loading up on the offensive side of the ball. Like, I just don't really like the options and the value here for the Browns. Wide receiver core, they're just so ass. So it's like you got Chris Bell for the mid-range. Jacoby Lane, you compare him back up with Jaden Mayava. I don't think he's earned, like, based on his play this year, I don't know if he's necessarily earned, like, early third, but you do have that connection instantly. I'm going to roll the dice on someone a little bit more special. We're going to go Nick Harbor, wide receiver of South Carolina. Again, someone who probably will return to school, but this is someone who's just going to fly in a straight line and is a physical freak. That's going to be intriguing to a lot of teams, but when you end up seeing his role in the offense, you need a year or 2 of him developing before he's even pretty viable on a down-by-down basis. This is a situational receiver, but for the Browns, I think their receiving core is so bad that's like, you can end up just putting up with it. 71 for the Las Vegas Raiders, Ty Simpson, Zaki Wheatley. Linebacker Rodriguez would actually be a pretty good choice here. He's been extremely well balanced, but I do think we might need to look at the offensive side too. Offensive line-wise, is there anybody worth looking at here? And unfortunately, I don't have any more sneaky players I could toss in there except Kobe Baines, the guard out of Kansas, but definitely somebody that's not going to be overly high on people's list. Tackle-wise, I just don't see the value there, and I can't end up forcing that. So boundary corner, I definitely think you should be open to it. D'Angelo Ponce would be really fun, could kind of play like a Nate Hobbs used to. And honestly, I think just going after best player available is a good idea, and he is one of the best players available on the board. We're going to go D'Angelo Velcro Pons at number 71. 72 for the Philadelphia Eagles, Trevor Goosby, Chris Johnson. I really like how that ended up turning out because we have Romello Height, Joshua Josephs here. Joshua Josephs is perfect because he brings kind of a little bit of that Nolan aspect where he's a solid run defender with really good length and really good athleticism. It's a perfect fit. At number 73 for the Arizona Cardinals, they have Caleb Lamu and Arvell Reese. I think those are the players that you need to focus on. And now let's get someone who has some returning ability. And I want to see how consistent Zachariah Branch has been this year. Actually, pretty solid contested catch rate, but he's just the perfect weapon, in my opinion, for this offense. Someone who's a gadget, short range player that ends up being able to take it to the house every time he touches it. And he's a great returner. I know he's going to go in the next few picks anyways. We're going to go Zachariah Branch, wide receiver out of Georgia, at 73. 74 for the Ravens, again, via that trade down, reallocated their second round pick to be able to get Ruben Bain. And then, of course, this one, have Big Dom Orange, Ruben Bain. And now we could end up looking potentially to fill that guard spot. I would look at a tackle to fill it because that's just kind of their style. Maybe just wait till day 2 or day 3 for someone like Drew Shelton. Again, I'm happy that I had some issues with Shelton there. Wide receiver, I don't really believe wide receiver is that big of an issue. I do think tight end's underrated. Running back with someone like Damon Claiborne would be a longer term option for Justice Hill. Not a horrible choice there, but at the same time, I also think that cornerback, you have Marlon Humphrey playing right now. I don't think it's a bad idea to look at Xavier Scott, but I also think he'd be more Marlon Humphrey than Jair Alexander. I ended up calling out Marlon Humphrey. I meant to talk about Jair Alexander. Chandler Rivers is very similar, but I do think Chandler Rivers can bring a little bit more value to the boundary than Xavier Scott does. So we're going to roll the dice and just go after a really good defensive back and see where he lands. At 75 for the Cincinnati Bengals, we've gone after Quincy Rhodes and Mansour Delane. Very happy with that group. Very happy. Again, the interior offensive line need to get some help there. Unfortunately, this is just not the class to do that. I hate to say that, but it's just true. Defensive back, you do need some help. And I'm going to look at Keon Saab here, someone who can end up being pretty damn versatile, but somebody who also has a ton of range and can take over a game. He's definitely someone worth it at this point. We're going to go and just completely rehaul the defense and try to focus our monies maybe on the interior offensive line over the offseason. 76 for the Washington Commanders, TJ Parker was the first selection. Very, very crucial in my opinion. Now, you can talk about some developmental defensive back talent right now. I'm not going to do that. Linebacker is always a position where you can continue trying to reinvest and upgrade. I think that wide receiver is crucial here. And I want to get somebody who has that deep threat ability. And I'm not fully sold on this guy, but he has improved noticeably this year. And I do love Jaden Daniels' deep ball. We're going to go after Chris Brazzell II out of Tennessee. At 77 for the Pittsburgh Steelers, we've got Keith Abney and John Mateer. Feel very happy with that. Again, there are so many quarterbacks available that I didn't really think it was necessary to go after Mateer, but I just know that you need to get somebody. And fortunately, we've seen the most success and most potency from the Steelers offense with somebody who has a pretty wild arm there with good mobility in Aaron Rodgers. So I would assume that, if you increase the mobility, have similar arm upside when healthy, big asterisk, you end up getting something that would end up being a little bit more valuable than some of the guys available. A guy who I'm looking at right now is Bryce Lance. He's 6'3", 210. It has a lot of Christian Watson to his game, and I think he'd be a really good dynamic too. Got to give a shout out there. I think Anthony Russo is the guy who is a big Bryce Lane fan, so I'm going to give him his flowers here. We're going to go after Bryce Lane for the Steelers. At number 78, Minnesota Vikings, Avion Trell, Caleb Tiernan. Caleb Tiernan to be the long-term option at right tackle. I think you could easily go Damon Claiborne here. Like, it is possible, Jadarian Price. But we'll probably just do that at pick 80. I'm going to go after a center here for the long haul, and we're going to go Parker Brailsford. Fortunately, Kelly with the concussion issues, just too big of a red flag. Chiefs at number 79 went LT Overton and Jeremiah Love. I'm a huge fan of how that ended up panning out. I don't think guard's going to be a big issue for them. I do know that defensive back, you can end up trying to add somebody like Thaddeus Dixon into this role. Thaddeus is a good corner. Like, Of the corners that don't get enough love, I think Thaddeus is one of them that has a bit more potential than the rest. It's just not a good DB class, guys. I'm just not a huge fan of it. I do think the Chiefs are an underrated team to look at wide receiver. And honestly, Jacoby Lane, with his ability to be a true X, would not be a bad idea. And then with his ability to press it down the field with his release package, would be a really, really good option for this team. Looking at some other wide receiver options, Skylar Bell's fun. I love Skylar Bell. But looking at how my board is, I love Kobe Baines. I want to get Kobe Baines off my board soon. Probably need to make a move. I probably should have sent him to, honestly, could have probably sent him to the Bengals. But regardless, I'm looking at some teams here like Lee Hunter, defensive interior. We'll see how Omar Norman Lott returns from injury. Definitely somebody that I would want to see a little bit more of. Just like, well, we'll see about that. But in terms of my top guys, we have all of them taken. Like, I think on the screen, every single person's taken, which is good. Again, huge Kobe Baines guy myself. Feel free to go watch him. Really good guard there. Max Llewellyn, not really going to be somebody that we focus on too much. It's a weird spot. But let's look at, honestly, Ian Strong's the top 10 receiver for me, and he brings some deep threat ability. We're going to go Ian Strong. Show him some love. He looks good in red anyways. At 80 for the Vikings, again, Avion Terrell, Caleb Tiernan, Parker Brailsford. We're going to end up going after Damon Claiborne, running back out of Wake Forest. Some health concerns there this year. He's been a little banged up, but he had his best game versus his biggest competition. To me, that's a big win there. And he has the home run hitting ability that not many have. We'll see if you guys are in the position to, take a center at that point, but very happy with that. 81 for the Falcons. CJ Daniels was the first selection. And here at 81, this is where you can probably take a shot on someone like Dalen Everett to, try to challenge to be in that top corner group. Again, there's DJ McKinney as well. Like, we're here in the third round. I think DJ will return to school. DJ's worth the risk. Definitely somebody who has first round potential. You're buying into the upside here in the third round, which is kind of the whole entire point. Then you have Christian Miller, deny Dennis Sutton as the first picks for the Bears. I'm going to end up going after a running back here with Jadarian Price. He is so explosive, crazy athlete. The only reason that, he's not more in the spotlight is because of the fact that his number one running back is the number one running back. Jadarian Price, the selection there for the Bears. At 83 for the Jacksonville Jaguars, Caden Green was the first selection. Romello Heights still here. I do think it's actually pretty realistic. He's a DPR at heart. But honestly, I love Kamari Ramsey. He's just someone that you need to have a team that could utilize him in the slot. I just don't know how many teams are going to be overly able to do that. So, it is what it is. But first pick with that Caden Green, I feel very comfortable with that. Wide receiver, again, that's kind of where you have that 1-2 punch. I feel comfortable with that. Tight end is actually where I'm going to make my next move. And I think they're going to throw a huge curveball out there. And they're going to go after my tight end 2 in this draft, who is not on here. It's Eli Raridan, a tight end out of Notre Dame. He's a top 50 player for me in this class, and he's been incredible. Once you guys get to see the stats, go look him up for yourself. It's going to be great. Going to show Luke Hodge some credit there and have him as a placeholder, but Eli Raridan, number 48 on my big board. At number 84 for the Los Angeles Chargers, CeCe Mauigoa and Mateo Uiagalelei, the first 2 selections. I'm a big supporter of how that ended up turning out. Again, Connor Liu considered returning this. Same thing with Jermod McCoy. Like, personally, I might even just go Romello Height at this point because I do think it's that crucial to just hit on one of them. But I do know linebacker's been a little sketchy outside of Diane Henley. So we're going to end up going after Jacob Rodriguez. Unfortunately, I don't fully trust the Junior Colson reascension. And in the third round, you're going to get yourself just someone who's super high floor here in Rodriguez, who's had a fantastic season so far for the Red Raiders. At number 85 for the Bills, Sonny Styles, Dylan Thieneman. That's exactly where you want to be. Romello Heights fun, but does not fit the edge profile that y'all usually go after. Derek Moore does. He's 260, and he's just a high ceiling pass rusher. It's so funny he's not that great of a run defender, but I think this is the right value for him. We're just going to load up on defense, which is literally what the Bills do every single time. It's what they did this past draft too. But the value's just been there every time, so we're just going to do it. Niners went Cassius Howell and Caden Proctor. Could have went Romello Height here. But again, I've been trying to find a home for Romello Height since probably that pick. Just has not happened. But a safety is required. My only problem with Kamari is that he's played a lot in the slot. He's versatile. He plays everywhere. So I'm not really worried about that aspect. I'd rather go after AJ Halsey, who's been a little bit more deep, and replace Marcus Siegel that way, because he is just, Marcus needs to be someone who's in a rotation. AJ has the potential to be a huge impact player there. 87 for the Seahawks, Denzel Boston, and then Austin Sierreveld to be the guard for you guys. Linebacker is possible at this point. You got Jay Golday here, who I really like, but you know what I love? Flexibility. I love someone who could rush the passer, especially when you end up having two guys on the last year of their contract next year, as well as one in Boye Mafe, who's on one this year, but also someone who could play linebacker as well, and that's Harold Perkins. He was somebody who should have ended up being like a top 5 pick if he just continued playing edge rusher and built on some weight. We're going to do it with Harold Perkins there. Romello could have been fun, but Harold Perkins provides almost like 2 levels of impact, and I want to take advantage of that. Jacksonville Jaguars, Caden Green, as well as Eli Raridan. The selections there. With the defensive backs, I do wonder with Carolina if I want to make a move up here. Like, it would have been nice to get AJ Halsey, but I'm really looking at Kamari Ramsey here and being able to utilize him across the field. And I think the value is going to be pretty damn good at this point. There's still good defensive backs littered across the board. But I mean, Emmanuel McNeil Warren, for example, he has been fantastic. Honestly, he might be a little bit better as a true safety. He is, I mean, he's a little bit more, obviously it's saying like box and deep, but he's somebody who's a little bit less slot specific. I'd be going Kamari just to get value, but I actually really think this is a good idea for the Carolina Panthers. They're sitting there at pick 114, so this is a pretty big move up. I'm just going to end up flipping this. We're just going to go 114 and 121, which for the Jaguars, since we have a 3rd round pick as it is, this ends up bolstering that day 3 pick selection a little bit more. And we end up moving up with the Panthers. Could end up going edge rusher here as well, but let's just continue going and loading up on the defensive back room. Emmanuel McNeil Warren, some people have him as a round 2 player. So we're going to be able to fix the secondary pretty much completely. At 89 for the Pittsburgh Steelers, Keith Abney, John Mateer, Bryce Lane. Honestly, Romello Height at this point, a lot of people are talking about future of Alex Highsmith. We end up, of course, having really, really good developmental edge rushers on our squad right now. That's ending like Herbig is fantastic, but BPA never fails. Like Sawyer's going to be much more of a high floor edge rusher. That should be like an edge 3/4. Romello Height's actually impeccable value at this point. And you can't tell me the Steelers wouldn't be down for that shit. We always take somebody like where we don't need to. We're going to do it. We're going to go best player available. Romello Height there, edge rusher out of Texas Tech. At 90 for the Denver Broncos, another team I think Romello Height would have been good for, went Anthony Hill and Jennings Dunker. We're going to go wide receiver here. And Elijah Surratt's actually a really reliable option. But Jacoby Lane has always spoke to me as a great fit for the Denver Broncos. Like, there's something Cortland Sutton-esque to him. And I feel like that's just going to be an instant fit there. And for me, again, it's more of a gut feel than actual analysis. I feel happy with Jacoby Lane. At number 91 for the Los Angeles Rams, Mekhi Lemon, Lenore Sellers, Emil Wagner. Enough ignoring the defense. We're going to look at corner. And with Dalen Everett here, you guys have made it work with a lot worse from Georgia. I think you can end up having some good fun there with a high balanced corner. 92 for the Philadelphia Eagles, Gooseby, Johnson, Josephs. Need to look at tight end here as well. And with the drop issues, I've had a big problem with Miles Kitzelman this year, but this guy's been a fantastic blocking tight end. And last year, he didn't have any issues with drops. So, definitely a weird year, but we're talking about a new quarterback, just didn't end up working out with him. I think it will be a very good asset for the Philadelphia Eagles. One of the best blocking tight ends in the entire country. 93 for the New England Patriots, David Bailey, Kyle Lewis. Nothing sexy, just damn solid. And honestly, that's what you should be going for in the first place. I want to go after a potential wide receiver here. And I'm trying to remember if there's anybody that's not listed here that I love. Caleb Douglas. Oh my God. I don't know why it says 49. Oh, I didn't know Caleb was dropping the ball like that. My Lord. He absolutely sliced and diced Keith Abney, who I took in the 1st round for my Steelers. Definitely one of the most underrated players in the class, but that shit does not fly. That doesn't fly with me. I didn't know he had 18% drop rate. That's crazy to me. Kevin Coleman's awesome after the catch. He was really good last year. Really solid this year. I don't really love that. I think corner, you guys are doing great. We'll look at safety. We'll look at safety. And honestly, I might use Kamari Ramsey as like a flexible piece, someone who can go into the nickel, but also be in the box. You've seen there 6', 205. Yeah, honestly, I like him, like, because Craig Woodson as well has a relatively similar skill set, but I think they could be complementary. At 93, we're just gonna roll the dice. Earl Little, to be fair, Earl's fun, but I do think he's a little bit too risky. We're gonna go after Kamari Ramsey here at 93. 94 for the Green Bay Packers. We went Caleb Banks in the second, with their first pick. Here at 94. Again, I don't really fully understand where this team needs to upgrade. Like, people talk about edge. I think that you guys are doing perfectly fine. Wide receiver wise, it is kind of time to look at some potential future options here. And I think that the value, well, honestly, because Romeo Dubs could be moved eventually. We're going to go after someone who's not on this list. And I've been actually looking for one. Would not fit the Patriots. So I feel pretty happy about just going after it here. We're going to let Caleb Douglas be the placeholder. We're going to go after Omar Cooper, the wide receiver out of Indiana. Really good after the catch. Has some deep ability as well. But kind of a skill set I don't think the Packers really have. So good pairing there with Matt Golden for the future. 95 for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. R. Mason Thomas, Whit Weeks. Honestly, I want to just get a possession guy, and Elijah Surratt would be, ain't no way. He had like 100% contested catch rate. It's dropped down to 30%. That's actually kind of nuts. But, overall, Elijah's been over 70% of his career. I don't know what the hell happened in the past week or two since I've seen that stat. I don't know what's up with that, but it looks like all these guys are having pretty shitty years in terms of contested catch. I fully trust Elijah Surratt's hands. He's a dynamic weapon there. I'm going to go after him for the Buccaneers just to provide a solid floor of talent to develop. At 96 for the Broncos, Anthony Hill, Jennings Dunker, Jacoby Lane. I think this is the opportunity for teams to trade up and go after a quarterback. The Steelers obviously have already taken their quarterback. You're looking at some teams here. The Jets already drafted one. It's pretty damn dire. I forgot what the Cleveland Browns ended up taking. I should probably know that. We ended up going Nick Harbor. I love that we could end up doing this too. Thank God. They went Jaden Mayava. So I was like, I needed to double check because part of me was like, I know I ended up going after a QB for him. But the Raiders already traded up. That's the problem with this draft. Like, who needs some potential competition? The team would be the Carolina Panthers, but again, I'm not going to make a huge move up again. Like, I already just did that with them for a top tier defensive back and Emmanuel McNeil-Warren. I don't really want to do that. If you're sitting there at 16, your guys are doing a lot better. Just doesn't make sense. Just take one on day 3. Giants are doing great. The Cardinals, I don't think that's a very smart move. So it's a very weird spot to be in. I was hoping to try to get some of these quarterbacks off the board. I just don't think I'm going to. Instead, I think we can end up going after someone to be a little bit more of the Joker type. And it's between Max Clare and Michael Trigg. I'm going to go Michael Trigg, though. He has had some mind-boggling catches this year. Numerically, maybe not there, but if you use the eye test, Michael Trigg's pretty damn awesome. And 97 for the Minnesota Vikings. This is honestly a team where you could see them try to go after a quarterback at this point in terms of value, but I'm not there just yet. Defensive back-wise, you do still have some really, really good choices here. I love Bray Hubbard, for example. Bud Clark, really good choices. Earl Little, of course, we mentioned him earlier. A wide receiver's not off the board. Defensive interior, the value is impeccable. You talk about Darrell Jackson at this point, Tim Keenan. I think the value is too good. We're going to go Darrell Jackson here. He's been a great run defending interior defensive lineman, but again, just somebody who's going to be a little bit more limited to that, which is, late 3rd, ends up checking out. Steelers, Romello Height, Bryce Lane, John Mateer, Keith Abney. Just kind of going BPA based on what we needed. Interior offensive line could end up making sense right now. And I'm actually going to transition Austin Barber to guard. It's what I thought of him in the beginning, and I think of him as a day 2 prospect at guard. So we're going to do it. I don't think Kobe Baines really fits what the Steelers go for. But 99, Houston Texans, Emmanuel Pregnon, Isaiah World to fix the interior offensive line, Jonah Coleman to be the star power back, and then Peter Woods for the defensive interior. I like how that's all working out. I'm going to go back to Alabama. Deontay Lawson hasn't been that great this year, and he had some weight issues, but this is somebody where if you want to take some time to develop somebody to be a star linebacker, you could end up doing it with him. And number 100 for the Jacksonville Jaguars, I am wanting to trade out of here, and I'm going to look for a team that needs a guard. Miami already got one with Lyndon Cooper as a center transition to guard. The Browns, you've already kind of drafted a lot offensive line for them. The Bears are a good team to move up for Kobe Baines. I don't think there's that many more positions the Bears need. And I think this would be actually a good opportunity to go 120 and 127 and then end up getting something like a pick 232 back. So we're moving back with the Jaguars 20 spots, reallocating those picks. And we're going to go after my number 27 player, guard Kobe Baines. Who are we going to bestow the love upon? Logan Jones had a great week. We're going to let him be the placeholder there. But my number 27 player, Kobe Baines, guard out of Kansas. I just think he's a better longer-term option. So that's going to be the video. Thank you again so much for watching. Showing the love you always do. I'll see you later. Peace.